Alright guys, BLM here, back with a new video. In this video we'll be talking about Game of Thrones Season 8. It's been a pretty divisive season for the most part, and to be honest, I do side with the people that look at it more negatively. Now to give context, I've known about Song of Ice and Fire for a while now, but never actually read the books. And I've known about obviously Game of Thrones for a while, but never actually watched it until around the time that Season 7 started airing. And during that time, I decided to start binging Season 1, and I watched each season one by one over the course of the next year and a half, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Through Season 5, I was really considering it to be possibly one of my favorite shows of all time. Season 6 was good, had some great moments, especially towards the end of the season, and then Season 7 was just kinda And Season 7 started to bring everything together. All these characters were meeting for the first time. But outside of that, everything else was just kind of okay. But I was still extremely hyped for Season 8, as it was going to be the culmination of all these storylines from previous 7 seasons. I was waiting to see what the payoff would be for everything this show is set up. And we got it, I guess? Now, the first 2 episodes of the season, I genuinely liked. It was a lot of setup. But I thought it was good setup. I thought it was preparing us for these bigger moments for the rest of the season, the Battle of Winterfell and the Battle of King's Landing. So while some people were extremely down on the season by that point, I personally was enjoying it. And I personally still had hope that the rest of the season would play out in a way that I would like. And I was wrong. But then we get to episode 3, which is the first episode where my problems start to kick in here. Now I know a lot of people had problems with how dark the scenes were shot during the Battle of Winterfell. And yeah, they were dark. I mean, I personally don't really care, though. What I really cared about was the narrative. And, okay, where to start? Night King. The fact that he's killed so easily, really disappointed in that. The Night King himself was just kind of just there for most of the show. But when he was shown to be doing things, he was shown to be this massive threat. The White Walkers as a whole were shown to be this massive threat. This apocalyptic sort of threat here just gets taken down within one episode. But to me, the Night King was taken out just so unceremoniously. It's like as if the writers were writing the final 3 episodes first, and they were like, "Ah, shit, we didn't write the Night King stuff," and just wrote that afterwards. Because not much of consequence actually happens. No major characters die, and outside of Arya, there isn't really any great moments for any particular character. So I really came out of this episode pretty disappointed. I was personally expecting the White Walkers to be a much bigger threat at the endgame. I was thinking what was going to happen was that during the Battle of Winterfell, I was expecting them to be defeated. I thought that would have been a much better ending if they were defeated in this fight. But that's not my biggest issue with it. I mean, I'm fine if they won. I just want them to win in a better way. I don't think Arya was the wrong choice. I think Arya was actually probably the right choice to be the person that kills the Night King. I was just expecting Jon Snow to have more of a role in this, especially because a lot of his storyline before the Targaryen stuff started coming in was about him taking down the White Walkers, about the Night King and all that sort of stuff. Yet, he has almost nothing to do with it here. He's just kind of there. I was expecting the Night King and Jon Snow to have a one-on-one fight that lasts a few minutes, and then Arya can show up and do it. Instead, just Bran's just sitting there staring at him. It's the dumbest scene. And then after that, Arya just goes and kills him. I mean, the Bran stuff, whatever, he was there, but you can have Jon Snow try to save him first, have a climactic battle, and then have Arya kill him. I feel like that would have made the entire scene feel less anticlimactic. But I do feel like killing off the Night King this early kind of ruins the point of them even existing to begin with. I feel like the entire point of them was to show how pointless war was. That people get so caught up in war that they don't care about this other threat that's about to attack them. So in my opinion, it would have been more apt to have the war with Cersei first, have them win that war, and then have to take on the Night King and be overwhelmed for a little bit and then eventually beat him. But I just felt like that sort of analogy was just taken out entirely and they just killed him off just to get rid of him. But yeah, the final complaint I have here is the fact that no one died. I mean, I already mentioned that earlier, but the dumbest thing about that is the fact that a lot of people die 2 episodes later. Again, this is being set up as the biggest fight in the series. But it's nothing happened. Yeah, people are dying left and right in episode 5. It's really dumb that this plot armor was here with these characters where people like Jaime Lannister survive, people like Brienne survive. These characters that probably should have died here. And the Jaime Lannister one's the really irritating thing. I mean, I'll talk about him more later, but I feel like they completely butchered his character through this season. But then we get to episode 4, which I didn't have as much of a problem with as most people. There were a lot of dumb things. I mean, this entire back half of the season I felt like was filled with like really dumb plot holes. The fact that one of the dragons got killed just by a crossbow, like unceremoniously, was really dumb. Especially considering next episode, one dragon destroyed everything. It's like the fact that two of them couldn't do it, but one could. Then we get to episode 5, where obviously I have more issues here. The Varys death, that was really dumb. I mean, again, he's being shown throughout the show as being one of these big schemers. One of the biggest schemers in the entire series, yet he decides to betray Daenerys and do it out in the open. Like, it's just so unlike a character like him who does a lot of things in the background. And for him to die within the first, 10 minutes of the episode just felt like it was just so rushed. That's the thing, I mean, obviously, that's what a lot of people are saying. This season is rushed. Which it is. It really just feels like Benioff and Weiss were just so excited to start Star Wars. They were like, screw it, we'll ruin this show for the sake of it. I mean, obviously, HBO wanted more episodes, more seasons, but obviously they didn't do it. I mean, I think this could have easily been 2 full seasons. This entire season could have easily been 2 full seasons. I think it would have been much better. It would have made a lot of the payoff feel more earned, instead of things just happening so abruptly. And then we have the Daenerys heel turn, which I didn't have any problem with the idea of the heel turn. I think that 100% should have happened. I think that's what they've been subtly setting up for seasons now. The problem I have with it is that they just went from like 15 to 100 instead of going from like 80 to 100. And again, a lot of that's being due to time. If they had more time, if they had at least a 10 episode season, I feel like they could have done this in a much better way. But instead, it just feels so unearned. And I feel like, to be honest, they could have even fixed it within this episode just by having the circumstances of her killing everyone just be a bit different. The fact that everyone surrenders and then she kills everyone is just so dumb to me for where we were at this point in the story. What should have happened, in my opinion, was that obviously Daenerys was so obsessed with getting the throne, and to do that she would need to kill Cersei. I think what should have happened is that Cersei was near a crowd of people or something to that nature, and Daenerys decides to kill Cersei along with the other people in order to ensure her the Iron Throne, making it so that she gives up the lives of innocents. Instead, she already had the throne and she still killed everyone. It just makes her entire actions feel completely unjustified. Obviously, it needs to be to the characters within this show, as obviously it gives them the reason to kill her later on. But I do feel like for people at home, people watching this show, should be able to rationalize her decision making, especially with her being set up as a likable character through the first 2/3 of the series. But then we get the Cersei death, which was just dumb, wasn't it? I mean, the fact that, again, there's just no payoff in her death, in my opinion. There was no final confrontation. There was no anything. I mean, there was no Daenerys and Cersei confrontation here. I mean, and that's another thing about the Daenerys thing, is that she just like completely doesn't care about Cersei at that point when she's starting to kill innocents. Instead of just directly going for Cersei, which was her goal in this entire battle, just like, no, let's just kill innocents first. We can deal with Cersei later. And again, the Cersei death is just dumb to me. Again, like, I feel like her being killed in a crumbling building is just really dumb. And I feel like that left no real payoff for the entire arc of her character. Speaking of arcs, let's move on to Jaime Lannister. What was that? What was he this entire season? Again, he was able to redeem himself at the beginning of the season by leaving Cersei to fight for the North. And he had this great redemption arc through the first 7 seasons of the show, and they just throw it away. They just say, okay, no, I still want to be with Cersei. Let's go back to that. It's really mind-blowing to me that they just throw away this character arc, as it was one of my favorite things in this show. By this point in the show, I do think Jaime Lannister was probably my favorite character, but then they just completely undo everything they did. But mind you, I think there's only 2 ways I would have been happy with the outcome of Jaime Lannister's character arc. It probably would have been either he dies in the Battle of Winterfell, or he's the one that kills Cersei, so whatever. Now moving on to the finale, which I actually didn't hate as much as everyone else. I actually really enjoyed the first half of the finale. I thought everything up until Daenerys' death was pretty strong. I think her death itself was interesting from a visual standpoint, but again, it was kind of predictable that Jon Snow was going to kill her, which I think was 100% was the right choice. I think you had to have Jon Snow kill her. I think that's the only way you can end this storyline. What happens after that, where Drogon destroys the Iron Throne, is just dumb. How does he know the symbolism behind the Iron Throne? Like, why is he burning this thing? But whatever, that's something else. But then we get to the second half, which is kind of where it goes a bit off the rails. Bran gets elected king, and it's just kind of dumb, isn't it? I mean, okay, when I first saw it, I was like really, really like irritated. Now I'm kind of more accepting of it, but I still do find it funny that everyone online hated Bran. I can't even think of a single person that loved Bran. Yet he's the one that ends up becoming king. Mind you, I do believe this was George R. R. Martin's plan, but from what I understand, it was more set up in the books than it was actually in the show, as Bran is just such a weird character on the show. But yeah, Bran becomes king, and yeah, I mean, there's just so many weird plot holes in this episode. Like, one, why is everyone agreeing that Bran should become king? Especially these people that were just upset like a second ago, like Yara. Also, why didn't the Unsullied kill Tyrion and Jon Snow, considering they know that they betrayed Daenerys? Like, you literally have Jon Snow, the person who killed Daenerys, yet they're keeping him alive for a few weeks before everyone's able to get together with the king. Why do they care about who the king is? Like, they don't even live there. They're gonna leave right afterwards. Why do they care about who the king is there? Why not just kill Jon Snow and Tyrion? And also, why are they listening to Tyrion when he's making the decision to make Bran king? It's like, he's literally the prisoner in this scene, yet he's the one making all the decisions? It's so dumb. It really is. I mean, like, it's such a dumb scene. But then we have Jon returning to the Night's Watch, and eventually ends up leaving with the wildlings and goes beyond the wall and stuff. I thought that was an okay ending for him. I personally would have liked him to be king at that point. I feel like if he survives all the way to the end of the series, to have him not become king is kind of disappointing. I know a lot of people didn't want him to become king. They felt like that was the predictable outcome. But I do feel like once you get to that point, it's like, why not just make him king? But they didn't, whatever. But I do think it's a pretty fitting ending for him to return to where he started. Sansa becoming Queen of the North, cool. I think that's good. The problem I had with it was the fact that why is she allowed to break away from the Seven Kingdoms? Like, why is everyone just okay with that? And why didn't just everyone do that then if Sansa's allowed to? But whatever. Arya leaving for uncharted territory, that's good. I think that's a pretty good ending for her story. And then yeah, Bran, king, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts. I mean, oh my god. 7 seasons leading up to this. Suffice to say, I didn't love this season. But to be honest, I didn't hate the ending as much as I thought I would coming into the episode. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, you fans have never been happy with the ending. It's like, we just had Avengers Endgame, this 22 movie arc that ends so perfectly, wrapping up so many storylines so perfectly. Then we also did something like Breaking Bad, another show that ends so perfectly. It's like, it's not that I would have never been happy with any ending of Game of Thrones. I just wanted a good ending. I feel like that's just a common thing that people use to, like, criticize anyone that has a negative opinion. They just say, oh, you never would have been happy. It's like, no, I would have been happy with certain outcomes. It's just that they didn't happen. But whatever. Screw it. Game of Thrones Season 8 sucks. I mean, it's easily my least favorite season of the show. Again, narrative was all over the place. It was rushed. I feel like they also just wanted to kind of get it out of the way so that they can move on to Star Wars. But whatever. That's the review. Thank you for watching.